taking an unconventional look at stocks, property, bonds, economics, and more. This is the Total Money Management Podcast with Steve Moriarty, Tom Hill, and Jacob Senior.
Welcome to Total Money Management. I'm back again with Thomas Hill and Steve Moriarty. Today we're going to be covering some key points, but I might just kick off with this little quote, which is the only function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable.
Steve made it funny.
Well, it wasn't Steve. It was John Kenneth Galbraith.
Oh, God, you're stupid sometimes. Tom is saying I made it because I put it on the front page.
No, don't take everyone's...
Right. Now, go through the key points and you'll.
Well, look, we're going to be talking, the big issue is the big issue. So Alan Kohler's said some things. Disposable dollars declining.
Alliteration there, folks, for those who are into techniques.
Government's head squat. Let me finish.
Yeah, I think it's alliteration.
Low growth, trashing the economy, and we're going to talk about monthly returns as well. This will be released. I don't know, actually. Property versus stocks, I think, might be released before this. So if you listen to that, let us know, give us some feedback on it. And if we've decided to hold it back, then we'll have a property versus stocks one coming out soon.
Then go and listen to it and then give us some feedback.
But look, Alan Kohler's is about as seasoned as it comes.
Yes.
And there's an article that we'll probably post in the show notes, which is definitely worth your time to just have a read through. And we think it's accurately identifying many issues within the Australian economy regarding the future. So, and it's talking about prosperity and where's it going to go and all the things that everyone's wondering at the moment about Australia's next decade or next few years. So
yeah.
Well, I just like the fact that he kind of called out a lot of the data points that we're using to measure productivity and going, hang on a second, why is no one talking about per capita household disposable income adjusted for inflation?
Yeah.
Because that's at all-time lows.
Because it's awful. That's why we don't want to talk about it.
It's actually a great article. Go check it out. We've got a link in the week that was September 2 to 6. So jump on the website. If you haven't already subscribe. Links there. It's a good read.
Yes.
Picture time.
Next. Monday. So, well, look, we've talked about this in multiple previous podcasts. And it's impossible for debt to outgrow GDP forever, and I think it's timely, right? It feels like a market top at the minute.
Little bit, yeah.
We could be wrong, and we're happy to be wrong as well. But what we're just flagging is
the investment figures came out yesterday, which was September the 5th, and they were still quite strong for investors, owner operators, and first home buyers. So that will continue to buoy property markets, because there's lending going on. The big signal is when the lending starts to fall.
Yeah. Well, right? Australia's fall in disposable income is the worst in the world.
Yes. Well done, Australia. Punching above our weight there. In this case, below our weight.
Yeah. So you've got to look at the facts independently and make decisions based on the facts, not based on what you want the facts to be.
Yeah. I think, this has been a while. This has been a problem for Australia for a while. Our wages have been low. I should extend that. Like the rest of the world, the division, when you make something, if you make a fridge, there is profit that goes to the owner and some goes to wages. And what's happened over the last 30 to 40 years is the owners have made more money and the wages are less. And a big part of that is because China came onto the market and flooded the global market, with heaps of people to make stuff cheaply, right? So that's been why advanced economies have struggled to raise wages, because the fridge owner says, well, I'll just go and build it in Shenzhen and send it back to Australia. And that's been working, right? But our argument is that's now turning over and not working, because, as we discussed it last week, the Americans are saying, hang on, we're going to build our own semiconductors.
Well, it's also a productivity issue, right?
Absolutely. And so, but the crux of the issue, Tom, is the distribution of the money, right? And what's been happening is most of it's been going to the business owners, not to the wages. And that's why we've argued that you've needed to speculate mainly in property to get to reach your financial goals, right? Because if you're two couples sitting down on, like we said last week, about the debt to equity was like, the debt to income was like 65% of your pay packet's going to pay for a property, right? Whether you're a, renter or landlord. So when you look at that, you say, God, I'm never going to get ahead, right? If you're a couple, you say, well, we got to do something, right? So what do? You go to the bank and say, give us $1 million and we'll buy an investment property and we'll try and, we'll flip it in a year or 2 or 3, or we'll try our best to, pay the payments. And like you're fond of saying, Tom, people who bought in COVID are going, cool, I'm up 80, Perth prices are up 80% in 4 years. I mean, that's just batshit crazy. Right? But if you bought there, you'd be going, hey, I'm up 80%. We bought it for 6 and it's worth $1 million. You'd be looking at going, we're going to do whatever we can to try and pay this mortgage.
Yeah. Right? But that doesn't, we were talking about it at the coffee shop before, that doesn't go on forever. And if you look at it over the long term, it's not going to do 80% every 4 years for the next 50 years. So what we argue is, well, take some money off the top, sell one of the investment properties and reinvest it in something that's relatively good value.
I would love to know what percentage of investors have actually realised their profits from property.
Ours?
Instead of just... No, but you know what I'm saying? Like instead of, the paper value goes up and then, it's very common for people to go, cool, got some equity here. I'm going to get another one. I'm going to get another one. Like, I'll get a new SUV. I'll do this. I'll do that.
Very few people... Well, in a bull market, more people are buying property and buying SUVs from the wealth effect than people who are selling. And it's like stocks. If you want to buy my stocks, Tom, you've got to pay me a price that I want. And I want that price because I don't need to sell. Or I believe it's going up and I can still pay for it. Right? So you say to me, well, Steve, I want your stocks. Well, Tom, you've got to pay me $2. And then in 6 months, Tom, changed my mind, you've got to pay me $2.10. Right, that's the way it works.
Yeah. Well, the big thing for me, just before we move on to Tuesday, is the Australian growth rate's projected to fall from 1.1% to 0.9%, which we touched on last week. But it's
a recession.
It's crap.
Yeah. I was talking to someone yesterday just about the general state of the economy, and it just there's lots of restaurants and stuff, and like we were saying outside. You guys are saying people are not buying cars, right? They're starting to dial back a little bit on buying cars. And that's what you see happens when you get inflation, but when you get interest rates rising and you've got to start making some tough choices, right? No more Doritos, corn chips, kids. We got to knuckle down. No more flat whites in the morning, right? You start cutting back with the, quote, easy stuff, right? Subscriptions. Righto, we're going to toss... Netflix or one or the other or something like that.
Well, to your point, 2 the biggest purchases in your life is your home and your car. So
you generally borrow for both of them.
Yeah. And if you're going, I'm not going to buy the $100,000 car this time, I'll buy the $50,000 car, then who's going to buy the $100,000 cars unless they reduce the price?
Yep.
It's crazy. But Tuesday, let's talk about tax grabs. So most governments are desperate to find solutions to an expensive housing market, and we talk about it time and time again. But it's more important now than I think it has ever been. And Albo last week's announced an increase in rent assistance, which is great for the renters.
Good for the landlords.
Good for the landlords.
Well, in my mind, it is. If you rent off me and I go, Jacob's just got an extra 30 from Albo every week, you know what I'm doing, don't you? Yeah, hey, Jacob, your lease is up, mate. Guess what? There's nowhere else you can live. Mate, your rent's gone from, 500 to 520.
Well, isn't that what all the energy companies did with the rebate?
I don't know, mate. I don't know, but I got my gas bill during the week and the bloody thing's nearly doubled.
Oh, really? You cold?
You're using lots of gas, mate.
No, it's just that the price has skyrocketed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the headline here that we've got is tax grab sparks home price slide. Honestly, hardly a headline. Darwin has dropped 0.27% this month. Melbourne's dropped 0.18%. Everything else is up.
Monthly change is pointless, though.
Yeah, and then annual change, the only one that's negative, well, the only two that are negative is Hobart, negative 0.5%, and Melbourne, negative 1.46%.
Well, everyone's moving out of Vic to
you can
Queensland.
barely even measure that.
Yeah.
Like,
But what does it tell you? It tells you that everybody's talking about monthly movements or weekly movements.
on property.
There's a daily
It's
index, I
ridiculous,
think.
What do you get your house valued every week or month?
Exactly.
Who knows? Like, that's just
You know
nonsense.
why, Tom? Because it'll be worth $10,000 more than it was last Friday. That's what people do. Right? That's what they do. They keep looking at the property going, hey, it's gone up, hey, it's gone up, hey, it's gone up. Let's buy an SUV. That's what they do. And that's what I'm trying to point out here is governments, particularly in Victoria, are trying to find ways to hit landlords to try and cool the property prices. That's what I think they're trying to do, right? Because all the governments had said, we want affordable housing. Well, in my mind, that's code for cheaper prices. And like we said, there's not too many landlords out there going, yeah, I'd be comfortable with the $200,000 decline in my property.
Okay, but what are they doing?
Well, what they're
achieve
doing
that?
is they're making it so unattractive that people go, you know what, we're going to sell this joint.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know what it achieves, to be quite honest, because you might, if you, again, it ties back to Monday. If you've got people who are not getting wage rises, well, it's going to be one person who can buy it. In a sense, it's like one rich person sells it to another rich person. Mm-hmm. Because if you go to the bank and say, hey, this landlord now wants 900,000, not $1 million, the bank says, no, Tom, you still haven't got enough income to afford it. Well, that's it. Game over. You can't afford it. Right? Mm. But a rich person can come along and go, yeah, sure, 900. Oh, that gives me a yield of 4. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's why I say it's really, the government is in a rock and a hard place, right? Because you can't. It's like saying we're going to help people buy stocks, but we don't want anybody to lose money. It's like, okay, how do you do that? Right? You can't. Somebody has to end up holding the bag, whether it's a stock or a property.
But what can they actually do to influence that?
Well, if you look at Japan, which had, the mother of all bubbles, or if you look at if you look at Ireland or Spain or the US in the GFC or England or Sweden or Germany or, every other goddamn country that's had a property problem, New Zealand, well, okay, Albo's not going to let property prices fall. Okay, well, New Zealand's gone down 20%. Why the hell are they letting it fall? I'll tell you why, because they can't fix it. It's a pure matter of logic, as I said, that you can't say to every property owner, we're going to help you with your mortgage. All you're doing is making it worse for the renter or the mortgage owner.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I say you need to be really cognizant when you make investments, because the idea is, or the idea of, the government will help us. It's like, look, dude, that's why I say Albo's not going to be ringing people going, oh, Tom, just hang on to your property. I'll slip you an extra couple of $100 a week to make things better. The only thing they can do is basically say, we got to raise wages to help Tom pay the mortgage, but also at the same time say to Tom, now listen, mate, don't you go there and leverage up again, right? Because that's what people...
Yeah, because otherwise it'll just start again.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's why you need rules to say, righto, we're going to cut rates, but there's not going to be any more of this, speculation, crazy stuff.
Well, the banks will never do that. The banks will loan whoever they want to loan to make money.
Hello.
They're a business.
Now we're getting to the source of the problem.
So yeah, it'll cycle and cycle. In my mind, suburbs like Griffin and North Lakes and those places where there's heaps of free land, there's heaps of land available to just build houses on. So if there's 10,000 houses in Griffin, for example, and someone goes and builds another 10,000 houses, your $900,000 Griffin house is not going to be worth $900,000 once they're built. But that's the theory.
Yeah. Not if you got, if you got that many to choose from. But my argument is, Jacob, who the hell wants to live in Griffin? I'm not being rude, but what I'm saying is, if you've got
People that can't afford to live in Gordon Park.
yeah, I know, but there's a lot of people who say I'd rather rent in Gordon Park than live in Griffin.
Yeah.
But I'm not being rude, but it's just for a whole raft of reasons.
Wonder who lives in Gordon Park.
Yeah.
Well, he lives in Griffin.
Mr. BMW, I mean.
No, but do you know what I
Oracle.
mean? Like, I'm just saying, there's the idea. The idea is, we'll build all these houses at 40 minutes from the city, and people will buy them. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, but if there's big demand for Gordon Park, it's no good building in Griffin,
Yeah.
right? Because people want to live in Gordon Park.
Yeah.
Right, this is the problem we've always had with immigration, where they come to the country, and we say, "Oh, why don't you go and live in Bullamakanka?" It's like, I want to live in Sydney, where all the people I know that's come from India or China or Malaysia, Oh no, we want you to go and live in Bullamakanka. It's like, yeah, thanks, nah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I get it.
Anyway, yeah, right.
Well, now I'm not going to chip in with anything to do with Griffin, am I?
Well,
It's not worth it, mate.
It's not worth it. Wednesday, what's going on?
you're just polluting.
Australia's economy is not performing with growth, expected to be at 0.9%. So more private debt's not going to help for some reason.
Righto. Thursday,
Hard to
move on.
imagine.
Look at that.
We're-
Economy barely grows as consumers slash spending. Okay. Remember, Tom? I told you so.
We haven't spoke about that, have we?
One of those I told you so movements. Come to Papa.
Oh, yuck. Social's going to love
This
that.
is the best one. I love this one. Read that headline.
Yeah, some may have to sell their homes.
Jacob, you're just way behind on the... Mate, I'm going to have to take the photo thing off you if you're not going to
Please
keep
do.
up.
Honestly. I
The
can't-
RBA governor
Well,
gives economic warning.
Here it is. Say it again, Tom.
Some
What are you
may-
talking about?
Some might have
That's
to sell
not
their
the
homes,
headline.
mate.
Right, read the bloody headline.
There we go. Got it.
There you go, read it.
I've read it 3 times.
Oh,
Everyone's heard
he's
it
got the
except for
shits
you.
now.
Everyone's heard
Right,
it
some
except for
may
you.
have to sell their homes. RBA governor gives economic warning.
Mrs. Michelle Bullock. She looks lovely. Look
Geez,
at
I'll bet you she'd be popular.
how much is she on?
$1 million bucks.
So
Tells it how it is, mate. I reckon you would say the same thing. Jacob Senior would absolutely sit up there and go, you know what? You're just going to have to sell your home. It is what it is. Get on with it.
just sell your house,
Rip
mate.
the Band-Aid off. Get on with it.
Take a loss.
What are you
You're
going to do
weak.
about it?
Go and get a better job.
We're going to dwell on it or we're going
But
to do
like,
something
this
about
is
it?
the RBA governor. This is someone that has a lot of respect and responsibility for the people, apparently, going, actually, no, just sell your house, mate. Stay afloat.
To stay afloat.
Yeah.
Not like, just to, maybe...
Take a win. No. Stay afloat. Go and rent somewhere.
Listen, you're just
Go
going
and
to
rent in Griffin.
But I mean, as I said, that's extraordinary for me. That someone comes out and says, you remember 4 years ago when the previous bloke here said, nah, interest rates are going to stay low until 2024, right? Then everyone, pile in, it'll all be good. They give him the flick, right? She comes in, she doesn't do anything. She's done zero since Phil Lowe left, right? She's done nothing. And then she comes in and tone deaf says, oh, listen, by the way, Tom, you really should think about, selling that property because if you don't, you'll sink.
And you know what? I'll buy it because I've got a lot of cash.
Right? I mean, I honestly, I just think that's astounding. As I said last week, if Albo or Jim Chalmers came out and said, listen, mate, you just need to sell that property. Could you imagine the outrage?
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm glad it's her and not me. She'd want $1 million a year to say that.
You've said your fair share on this podcast, mate. Anyway.
Well, yeah. I just say I've got a forceful opinion.
Oh, what's this? Monthly return stats for the S&P 500. It's done all right.
It's up.
It's done pretty well.
Yeah. I think it's up about 18% this year. But what I'm pointing out there is just that September's a bit of a wobbly month, September and October. Again, doesn't mean you rush and sell all your portfolio, but it's just giving you the information to say, oh, okay, yep, I realise September. The boys at TMM said September's going to be a bit of a rocky month. It is. Okay. In actual fact, I might buy a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, statistically, 45% of the time, September is a positive month.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I mean, for me, he's still looking at the Cape and going, there's probably better places to invest.
Yes. But as you would do too, you would look at, as we said, the Santa Rally starts in about June.
Yeah.
But if you look at November, December, January, right,
Typically good.
68, 72 and 58% positive, that's when you say, oh, well, listen, I'll get in October. And the probability, I'm not guaranteeing it, but the probability that you'll have a good run to the end of the year is a lot higher. And that's what indeed happened in 23.
Yeah.
Right? It really booted off in October and then went gangbusters November, December.
I mean, if you're a poker player here and you're like 58% positive in Jan, 53 is 65, like it's all of it is over 50% apart from September.
Yep.
So for me, you look at that and go, well, I'm like, it's likely going to go up anyway. So, but that's why I go, okay, well, it's really, really expensive right now.
Yes.
If you take that into account alongside the probability, in
that's
my mind,
the trick.
It dilutes it a bit.
That's the trick. You've got to be able to take the next step down, or second level thinking, as Howard Marks calls it, and say, okay, 72% in December, it's an up month, right?
Yeah.
Great odds. Let's look at it when the Cape's between 25 and 35. Oh, okay, now it's only 32%. Oh, okay, so where's the Cape? 35. Oh, okay, well, I need to be a little bit more careful.
Exactly.
Right, and that's the point about stepping down into the stats to say, okay, what has it done every December where the Cape's been 35? Now, there's only like 2 data points or something, but again, it's generally worth saying, even if you said, okay, well, let me make it the Cape above 25. What's December? You look at it and go, oh, okay, now it's not as appealing.
Average is about 18, so you can kind of you map it out from there.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it's just saying, you can't make blanket statements. Oh, stocks only ever go up. Oh, okay. Over what time period where, that sort of stuff.
I think someone said on Instagram last week, well, over 100 years, what have stocks done? I'm like, okay, well, did you invest 100 years ago? You're not like 150 to me, mate.
Warren Buffett's only 94.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway.
Charlie nearly got there.
Bless him.
Charlie got to 99. God, you think you'd really bat it out to get 100, wouldn't you?
You'd be pissed off.
Well, he's dead. He wouldn't be pissed off, mate.
should have tried harder.
What's in the bonus section, Steve?
We got just the 2023 and then the year to date. Look at Fortescue, down 37%.
What was that?
That was my Roadrunner impersonation.
I'm surprised at Woodside.
I'm
down 12.
Yeah.
Aren't these all your recommendations? No, I'm joking.
Well, this is not financial advice. Woodside paid a dividend during the week, which was about 4% of current prices. And someone may have bought more because they're confident of Woodside's future. I'm not saying who that someone might be, but I'm just saying someone might have bought more because they know what they're doing.
Well, and the sector's cheap as well, right?
Yep. But look at Fortescue. Perfect example, right? 2023, you're up 41%. Woohoo, I am killing it. This year it's down 37.
Holy shit.
So you're actually behind in geometric terms.
That's why you got to do something like Whale One, take the money off the table, find something else.
BHP, up 10 last year, down 19 so far.
I feel like Telstra's just down one every year.
Yeah. You're probably right, Tom.
They've been like that for 20 years.
But you got all those old people with franking credits.
Yeah.
Send me my dividend.
What percentage is WiseTech up this year? That didn't pull through.
That's off the charts.
49. Oh, there's no number on it. Infinite.
Wow.
Just keeps going. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with dividends.
No,
We're
absolutely.
going to talk dividend at TM.
Don't spoil the story. Don't spoil the story. I know what you're going to say. That's
on the
for
next
our
one.
stocks versus property special.
Okay. I won't say anything.
Good. Righto, move on.
Short story. Sydney doctors forced to choose who lives and dies. That's
No, that's Michelle Bullock's job.
that's me.
Sell the property or die. Your choice.
I mean, I'm pretty sure doctors are paid to do that anyway, not to choose.
Don't be surprised. But look, what I'm saying is there's no photo up there again, Jacob.
Jesus Christ.
What I'm saying is that whole page is really awful, but you need to pay attention to it because COVID is raging again. And there's, if you look at the next story, a knife fight for staff, nurse shortage threatens aged care fix.
Yep.
What I'm saying is, you see, we're getting labour shortages, right? So what happens? We're going to have to pay people more. Or nurses say, listen, I've had enough of this garbage. And they go, hang on, nurse, we'll give you another $20,000 a year. Oh, okay, well, now I'll stay.
Well, they're on strike every 5 minutes anyway because they get paid nothing.
That's what I'm talking about.
They're terrible for them.
And then that what that does is that creates wage inflation, right? The firemen say, firepersons, they then say, hey, we want more money. Then the police say, hey, we want more money. Then teachers say, hey, we want more money. Then the private sector says, man, Jenny's just left to become a nurse and she's getting 140 grand a year.
Well, the private sector say we're going to have to not make 100% profits this year. We might make 80.
And give it to the staff.
Give it to the staff, yeah.
Right? But then that makes their products more expensive so this is where you're going to see more and more of this stuff come through. Now, it's a little bit of an iceberg, as in the sense of it's a slow melt. It's not, you're not going to wake up and wages go up 20%, but you might see them go up 4% a year consistently every year, right? And the broader picture is...
And then inflation eats it away.
And demographics, right? So we've got more old people like me and less young people like you. So you guys are in the box seat, right? Because we're going to be saying we need you guys to do what we've got to do. And you guys are going to be smart and say, fine, you're going to pay me a lot more money. And by the way, I want to work from home and I want Fridays off.
Yeah.
Right? This is why I say I'm old enough to know like I said, when I left school, I just walked straight into a job. Right? It wasn't any of this stuff about, you got to apply 100 times. I went to, the CES, the Commonwealth Employment Service. It was like, right, go and ring this bloke. Hello, my name's Steve. Can I have a job? Yep, sure, start Monday, see ya. Now, I was subsidised. The employer got money for me for 6 months. But then after 6 months, it was like, yeah, Steve seems like all right. All right, well, we'll keep him on.
Oh, you're productive, right?
So that's what I think we're going to be heading back to, because the government's going to be saying, we need you blokes to build X, right? None more of that fluffy stuff of, website development or stuff. We want you to build bridges. We really need bridges in this country. Or we need, factories and stuff like that. So it's going to be much more government directed, which of course everybody will hate.
Yeah.
But that's
But everyone will be in a job.
Well, yeah.
In theory. COVID here, so half of all pupils' absences this year have been due to illness. Pupil absences are 40% higher than the pre-pandemic. Jesus. So everyone's sick, basically. Again.
Well, yeah.
And the next article, long COVID knocked 1 million Americans off their career paths.
That's why I say, look, I hate being the bearer of bad news, but this is really important for investors to understand. Because as we've talked about with the new normal, if we're heading back from low inflation to high inflation, one of the factors will be we're not buying stuff from China, we're making it now and it costs more. And the second part is, when we can get people here to build it.
Yep. People want to work less, and that's half of them. The other half are sick, or they're taking more sick days and being less productive.
How do you even know if you've got long COVID? How many of those people are taking the piss because people are lazy?
Yeah, but Tom, but that's,
no, I'm just,
I know, but you hear that a lot. The problem with young people don't want to work. Bullshit. Give them a decent job with a wage. They love working. It's socialisation. They get their own money. There is that stuff with, look, there will be people who, I was talking to a lady at Woolies about 3 weeks ago, right? And I said to her, there's something about the weekend or something, right? And I went, you're working Sundays. And she said, yeah, I had to come in because, some of the staff didn't come in. And I went, oh, right. And she went, the young kids, right, it's a long weekend. So what do? They all nick off to the Gold Coast, right?
On the rink.
Right. But my point being, for every one of those kids who goes, I'm nicking off to the weekend, I don't care about doing my shift at Woolies, there's 10 that will do the shift, right? And so But it's like my old man said about cops, right? My old man was a lawyer, and he said the problem with the police force is one bad cop makes all of them bad, right? And it's that old story of, like, they're all corrupt. And it's like, well, no, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're all just trying their best. And, yeah, there's a bad apple here and there, but that's the way it works, right? And it's the same with politicians. They're trying really hard, and they're caught between a rock and a hard place on every single subject. Like we talked about with housing, right? Do we keep the landlords happy or do we keep the renters happy? Because it's bloody hard keeping them both happy, right? And they're only trying their best. But people go, they're all bullshit, they're all corrupt because they own property. Well, there's a legitimate criticism with owning too much property, but doesn't mean that they're corrupt.
Yeah.
They're not getting underhanded deals and,
No, they're
cheating
following,
people and stuff.
following incentives. All landlords are just following the incentives. Like, why? I don't understand this argument of that landlords are corrupt, because why wouldn't you? Like, if you're in a position to
Absolutely.
do better for yourself and your family and whatever else, why wouldn't you?
Especially when we've got an economy that's a bit dog eat dog.
Yeah.
Right? So, that's, as I say, if I was in their shoes, I'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
100%. Look, going to touch on the chow. The best of offense is owning defense. As we've spoken about in the new normal, investors are going to need to accommodate for the new world, or looking at things a little bit differently. We've got a chart here from 1989 to 2024.
I remember to put it up.
Aerospace and defense has actually outperformed the S&P and industrials. And it's likely that defense companies will continue to do well.
Yeah,
in the near
depending on
future.
what they're valued at.
Yeah.
Because some of them have had a really good run. But the point...
Lots
Well,
of spending in that space.
And the point for the future is, if they do fall, that might be a good opportunity to, dare I say it, buy the dip, right? Because they'll, Boeing at the moment is awful.
It's been crap since COVID, I think.
Well, yeah, but they've struggled more recently with, some part fell off or something. Then the two
Pretty big thing on an aeroplane, isn't it?
Yeah, just the wings.
Yeah.
Just the wings.
Yeah, nothing really important. Just a flesh wound. And the other one is they've got two astronauts in space that are stuck.
Sorry?
Don't you blokes read the news?
No.
We just read the
tell
week
us
that was.
Yeah, I'll have to start bloody well
There's
publishing.
two spacemen stuck in space.
There's a spaceman and a spacewoman, space people, whatever you want to call them. They're stuck in a Boeing
Just floating around.
rocket up in space, and they can't get home. So now they're trying to
like a
work out how
movie.
the hell to get them home.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Well, yeah, you would be. Imagine if you went, I feel like going for a walk. No, you don't.
So Boeing stock took a dump. after
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I
They
must
lost
admit,
a few spacemen.
I haven't had a look for a while, but I think, at some point, they're the sort of things that, in my mind, which is probably very bad, but in my mind, it's like saying, will they let Boeing go broke? And the answer is no. Okay, well, if it's not going to go broke, what's the cheapest it can get to before you buy it, before it gets the upswing?
Just look at Telstra.
Well, yes, that's true, but Telstra has still provided a fairly decent dividend over the years, right? And there's been times where you could flog Telstra off for a quick profit. There was one I bought. I can't remember. For some reason, I think it was Mitsubishi in Japan. No, might have been Toshiba. It was one of those companies that built camera stuff.
Right.
And they went, there was some scandal or something and the price dropped 30% or something. And because of my experience in Japan, I knew that they built the latest cutting edge camera technology. There was no way the Japanese were going to let that blow up, right? Because it was just a strategic importance. So I bought it and I did really well. That's the only question, right? The question was, would the government go, oh, well, we just sold our latest camera, absolute cutting edge technology to the Chinese? You'd be going, oh, that's a really bad move. Mm-hmm. And I know the Japanese would never do that. So I sort of looked at it a bit and went, yep, righto. Now, I didn't care about, all those weirdo fundamental things that they all go through.
If only we had. You should start to sell Steve Moriarty's foresight. Might do all right out of it.
Might do all right.
Oh, that's probably just well.
Probably won't get a lot of money, though. Anyway,
Right,
we
let's
must
wrap
be...
it up.
Is that it, folks?
That's us.
That's it. The wrap?
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Actually, depending on where the
Where are we slotting
stocks
in
versus
the
property thing,
masterclass?
we really are keen for a bit of feedback on it because we want to do more of the special. So after you've listened to it, let us know.
It'll be extremely illuminating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay up to date on our socials. Just search for Total Money Management on Instagram and TikTok. For your free investor personality assessment, go to totalmoneymanagement.com.au. And as always, remember, we don't provide financial advice.